Chapter 13 Grameen Bank II. Grameen Bank has come a long way since it began its journey in the village of Jovra in 1976. During this quarter of a century, it has faced many operational and organizational problems and gained a lot of experience through its successes and failures. We have gathered many years of experience with the borrowers at our side. Borrowers of Grameen Bank at present own 93% of the total equity of the bank. Only the remaining 7% is owned by the Bangladeshi government. The total number of borrowers is 2.6 million, 95% of whom are women. Grameen Bank has 1,181 branches, works in 42,127 villages, and has a staff of 11,777. The total amount of loans disbursed by Grameen Bank since inception is 174.78 billion takas, $3.9 billion. Out of this, 161.33 billion takas, $3.6 billion, has been repaid. With the recovery rate standing at 98%. Grameen is especially proud of its self-reliance. It finances go percent of its total outstanding loan of 13.45 billion takas from its own fund and the savings from its depositors, over 82% of whom are its own borrowers. Grameen does not anticipate any need to solicit donor money or even take new loans from internal or external sources in the future. In 1995, Grameen decided not to request any more funds from donors. The last installment of donors' funds was received in 1998. Grameen's growing amount of deposits should be more than enough to repay its existing loans and run and expand its credit program from now on. Grameen Bank borrowed 1 billion takas from the Central Bank of Bangladesh and 2 billion takas from commercial banks immediately after the devastating flood of 1998 to give fresh loans to the borrowers, most of whom lost their assets. All these post-flood loans have been fully paid off. In addition, it has paid off all other loans that became due so far. Grameen Bank has made a profit every year since it came into being except in 1983, 1991 and 1992, proving that businesses with social objectives can and do work. Since the bank's operations began in 1983, it did not make a profit that year. The years 1991 and 1992 were years of massive rehabilitation for Grameen Bank members after a devastating cyclone hit Bangladesh in April 1991. The cyclone killed 150,000 people and affected hundreds of thousands of Grameen borrowers who lost their assets and livelihoods and were unable to pay back their loans on time. It also publishes its audited balance sheet every year, audited by two Bangladeshi audit firms of international repute. Bangladeshi audit firms of international repute, repute. Grameen Bank provides three types of loans: income generating loans with an interest rate of 20%, housing loans with an interest rate of 8%, and higher education loans for the children of Grameen families with an interest rate of 5%. All interests are simple interests calculated on a declining balance method. This means that if a borrower takes a loan of 1,000 takas and pays back the entire amount within a year through weekly installments, she will pay a total amount of 1,100 takas, i.e., 1,000 takas in principal plus 100 takas as interest for the year. Graeme believes that education is one of the primary components for moving oneself out of poverty. If current borrowers can educate their families and make their children better prepared to compete in the future, there will be a sustainable improvement for multiple generations. Students who succeed in reaching institutions of higher education are given loans covering tuition, TUI, TION. Is it tuition or tuition? I think tuition. Tuition, living costs, and other school expenses. So far, 466 students have received higher education loans. They are studying at various universities, medical schools, and engineering schools and other professional institutions. Scholarships, with priority given to girls and young women, are earned by the children of Grameen members every year. This encourages them to get better grades in school. An average of 3,700 children at various levels of education receive these scholarships every year. This is a means of investing in the this is a means of investing in the future of our members. Grameen Bank launched a program in 2001 to convert its operational methodology into a newer version called the Grameen Generalized System (GGS) or Grameen Bank II. We now refer to the earlier version as the Grameen Classic System or GCS. We sat down in April 2000 to design the new system, part by part, piece by piece. We then test piloted it immediately in a few branches. We fine-tuned the design, tried again in a larger number of branches, and reworked it. By the beginning of 2001, we had come up with a system that we all liked. All 12,000 staff members participated very actively in designing the product at all stages of its development. While we were designing and debugging the system, we were deeply concerned about how we would manage the transition from the Grameen Classic System GCS to GGS in 41,000 villages without subjecting hundreds of thousands of illiterate borrowers to a large shock and messing up the accounts in 1,175 branches. The transition was very carefully choreographed. We initially put it into action in March 2001. It was a gradual process. By April 2002, 2 years after we began, Grameen Bank II had emerged. The last branch of Grameen Bank to switch over to Grameen II did so on August 7, 2002. The new Grameen Bank II is now a real functioning institution. This second generation microcredit institution appears to be much better equipped than the earlier version. The central assumption underlying GGS remains the same as it was behind the Grameen Classic System. The firm belief that poor people always pay back their loans. On some occasions they may take longer to pay than originally stipulated, but repay they will. A credit institution dedicated to serving the poor should not get worried the minute a borrower fails to adhere to a strict schedule. Circumstances circumstances can befall a poor person over which they have no control. Since the borrower is paying additional interest for the period that she is delayed in repayment, there should be no problem on the institution's part. Microcredit programs should not fall into the logical trap of conventional banking firms and start looking at their borrowers as some kind of time bombs, ticking away and waiting to create big trouble on prefixed dates. We wanted to simplify life for our borrowers with GCS. GGS has been built GGS has been built around one prime loan product called the basic loan. The basic loan comes with an exit option. It offers an alternative route to any borrower who needs it without making her feel guilty about failing to fulfill the requirement of the basic loan. This alternative route is provided through a flexible loan. A flexible loan is simply a rescheduled basic loan with its own separate set of rules. I have described the basic loan as a Grameen microcredit highway. As long as the borrower keeps her schedule, she moves forward uninterrupted with ease and comfort. On the microcredit highway, she can pick up speed according to the rules of the highway. If she drives well, she can shift to higher and higher gears. In other words, on the Grameen highway, a borrower can routinely upgrade her loan size at each cycle of the loan. This is done on the basis of predetermined rules. She knows ahead of time how much of an enhancement in loan size is coming and can plan her activities accordingly. But if a borrower faces engine trouble, a business showdown or failure, sickness, family problems, accidents, thefts, natural disaster, etc., and cannot keep up with the highway speed, she has to quit the highway and take an exit. This detour is called a flexible loan or flexi loan. It allows her to move at a slower speed more appropriate to her situation. She can reduce the installment size that she can afford to pay by extending the loan period. Taking a detour, however, does not in any way imply that she has changed the objective of her journey. Her immediate goal is to overcome her problems and take as short a detour as possible. A borrower may be lucky to succeed in getting back to the highway, i.e., the basic loan, quickly, or she may have sustained problems, and the best she can do is to move from one detour to the next, i.e., moving from one flexi loan to the next flexi loan, working out an easier repayment schedule than the previous one, delaying re-entry onto the highway. Under the new system, the flexibility is something that the borrower is entitled to, and rescheduling a loan is not seen as an offense or something to be disapproved of. This gives the borrower a dignified way to deal with any problem she may face in repaying her loan. One big disincentive for a borrower to take the flexi loan detour is that the moment she exits from the basic loan highway, her loan ceiling, i.e., the maximum amount that she can take out as a loan, built up on the basis of her performance over the years, gets wiped out. When she re-enters the highway after completing her detour, her loan ceiling will have to be reconstructed. This will be somewhere between her entry-level loan ceiling and the loan ceiling she enjoyed immediately before taking the detour. There are many exciting features in GGS, but I think removing tension from microcredit by allowing the system to be flexible and permanently establishing full dignity to the poor borrowers are the two most important features of them all. Now both sides in the microcredit system, the lender and the borrowers, can enjoy microcredit. rather than creating occasional nightmares for each other. GGS has also created a methodology that can provide custom-made credit to a poor borrower. Grameen Generalized Systems allows loans of any duration such as 3, 6 or 9 months or any number of months and years. GGS allows a staff member to be creative. He can design his loan product to make it the best fit for his client in terms of duration, timing, scheduling the installment, and so on. The more a staff member becomes a creative artist, the better music he can produce. Grameen can identify the levels of creativity among its staff, and GGS allows a space for its staff to grow. GGS requires all borrowers with loans above 8,000 takas $138 to contribute a minimum of 50 takas $0.86 each month to a pension savings account. After 10 years, a borrower will receive a guaranteed amount, which is almost double the amount she has put in during those 120 months. This has become an amazingly attractive feature of GGS for the borrowers. Many are coming forward to save more than 50 takas each month. There are borrowers who are saving 500 takas per month. While it has become popular with the borrowers, it is generating a huge cash inflow for the bank. It is now bringing in over 100 million takas, $1.75 million each month as deposits on pension saving accounts. Grameen Bank can now rest assured that it will have enough of its own money to expand its lending operation in the future. By the same token, branches will now have enough money to carry out their lending programs with their own deposits. All Grameen branches can look forward to becoming self-financed, while the institution moves toward financial self-reliance. The borrowers also move to financial self-reliance as old age approaches. They can have monthly income at retirement out of the accumulated savings in the pension fund. For a poor woman, it is very comforting news. Very comforting news, right? GGS emphasizes receiving deposits from borrowers and non-borrowers. A variety of savings products has been incorporated into the system. The total amount of borrowers' deposits, i.e. savings, today amounts for 70% of the total outstanding loans of Grameen Bank, and this is after Grameen Bank has paid back 3.3 billion takas $60 million of its loans to the central bank, local commercial banks, and the foreign lenders, which became due for repayment during the past 2 years. Bangladeshi borrowers always worry what will happen to their debt if they die. Will their family members pay it? They believe that if their debt remains unpaid after their death, their soul cannot rest in peace. Inclusion of a loan insurance program in GGS has made them very happy. The insurance program is extremely simple. On the last day of every year, the borrower is required to put a small amount of money in a loan insurance savings account. It is calculated on the basis of the outstanding loan and interest of the borrower on the day. She deposits 2.5% of the outstanding amount. If a borrower dies any time during the next year, her entire outstanding amount is covered by the insurance fund. This money is provided by the interest income of the loan insurance savings account. In addition, her family receives back the amount she saved in the loan insurance savings account. Borrowers find it unbelievably generous. Everybody loves it. Total deposits under loan insurance savings now stand at 321.55 million takas, $5.55 million. Since this insurance program was introduced in 2001 under Grameen II, 4,215 borrowers have died, and total outstanding loans and interest of 25.99 million takas left to be repaid was covered by the bank under this plan. Each year, families of deceased borrowers of Grameen Bank receive a total of 8 to 10 million takas in loan insurance benefits. Each family receives up to a maximum of 2,000 takas. A total of 61,653 Grameen borrowers have died since 1983. Their families collectively received a total amount of 124.86 million takas, $3.04 million. Borrowers are not required to pay any premium for this insurance. Borrowers receive this insurance coverage simply by being a shareholder of the bank. I have never seen Grameen staff charged with so much enthusiasm and energy than after the introduction of GGS. They were all captivated by the idea of creating Grameen Bank II. The staff's energy level is now at its peak. Every time one talks to staff members, they appear as if they are having the most fun of their lives working for Grameen. You just can't stop them. Creating 5-star branches really caught their imagination. Grameen Bank provides color-coded stars to branches for 100% achievement of a specific task. 5 stars indicate a branch has reached the highest level of performance. At the end of 2002, branches showed the following results. 696 branches out of the total of 1,178 branches received green stars for maintaining a 100% repayment record. 437 branches received blue stars for earning a profit. Grameen Bank as a whole earns a profit because of the revenue it generates from the interest payments made by the branches on the funds borrowed from the head office. 213 branches earned violet stars by generating a surplus of deposits over the loans are outstanding in those branches. These branches not only carry out their business with their own funds, but also contribute their surpluses to meet the fund requirement of deficit branches. 61 branches have applied for brown stars for ensuring an education for 100% of the children of their Grameen families. After the completion of the verification process, their stars will be confirmed. 21 branches applied for red stars, indicating that they have succeeded in taking 100% of their borrowers' families over the poverty line. The star will be confirmed only after the verification procedure is completed. 772 branches, i.e., 2/3 of all branches, received a total of 1,346 stars, an average of 1.74 stars per branch. Each month, branches are coming closer to achieving new stars. Grameen staff members look forward to transforming all the branches of Grameen Bank into 5-star branches. Each staff member can earn stars even when the branch has yet to receive any stars, by simply fulfilling the same conditions for the centers for which he is responsible. Grameen staff members proudly display their stars on formal occasions. It has generated a burst of energy all around. They are not doing it for any monetary benefit. They are doing it in the spirit of competition, to be ahead of their peers, to create a record for their branches, Arias or Jones, to make a personal contribution in changing the economic and social conditions of the poor families they are working for, and above all, to prove their worth to themselves. Observing this phenomenon, one cannot but wonder how an environment can make people despair and sit idle, and then, by changing the conditions, one can transform the same people into matchless performers. Grameen II has defined microcredit in very simple terms. It has provided a powerful methodology to achieve its mission. Coming years will show what impact it makes in the lives of the poor in Bangladesh and globally. It has already proven to be a wonderful and exciting experience for Grameen staff members and the borrowers. It has raised our work to a new level of efficiency and effectiveness. This is the end of chapter 13. Now, chapter 14, the final chapter. Chapter 14, the future. We often refer to the next century as if we were talking about the next 24 hours. But the next century means the next 100 years, and we are already on our way. I don't think anybody has the knowledge or wisdom to predict what will happen to the world and its inhabitants during the next 100 years. The world is changing in such unpredictable ways and will continue to become more and more unpredictable as we move through it this century. All we can say with a fair amount of certainty is that the speed of change will become faster and faster. It is very unlikely to slow down. Take all the accumulated knowledge, discoveries, and inventions up until the end of the 20th century, and in the next 50 years alone, this will grow perhaps several times. That is the kind of incredible speed of change that we are approaching. If somehow we could come back to today's world 100 years from now, we would definitely feel as if we were visitors from some prehistoric age. If we try to imagine what the world will be like 25 years from today, we would have to create science fiction. The momentum for change is clearly in place. The insatiable quest for knowing the unknown, the eagerness of business to put technology at the service of consumers, and the military arms race between nations have all helped create this momentum. The real question is whether these changes will bring the human race closer to or farther away from desirable social and economic conditions. The answer is obvious. If we consider ourselves passengers on a spaceship Earth, we will find ourselves on a pilotless journey with no discernible route to follow. If we can convince ourselves that we are actually the crew of this spaceship and that we must reach a specific socio-economic destination, then we will continue to approach that destination even if we make mistakes or take detours along the way. We need to know the destination, if not in a precise way, then at least a generalized way. Before we actually translate something into reality, we must be able to dream about it. Any socio-economic dream is nothing but the first step in the process of mapping the course to our destination. If we do a good job in identifying our destination, more innovations and changes will take place to help us reach it. So the real question is not so much where we will be in the year 2050, but where we would like the world to be in 2050. By that time, I want to see a world free from poverty. This means that there will not be a single human being on this planet that may be described as a poor person or who is unable to meet his or her basic needs. By then, the word poverty will no longer have relevance. It will be understood only with reference to the past. Poverty does not belong in civilized human society. Its proper place is in a museum. That's where it will be. When school children go with their teachers and tour the poverty museums, they will be horrified to see the misery and indignity of human beings. They will blame their forefathers for tolerating this inhuman condition and for allowing it to continue in such a large segment of the population until the early part of the 21st century. Wow, this is fascinating. I have always believed that the elimination of poverty from the world is a matter of will. Even today, we don't pay serious attention to the issues of poverty because the powerful remain relatively untouched by it. Most people distance themselves from the issue by saying that if the poor worked harder, they wouldn't be poor. When we want to help the poor, we usually offer them charity. Most often, we use charity to avoid recognizing the problem and finding a solution for it. Charity becomes a way to shrug off our responsibility. But charity is no solution to poverty. Charity only perpetuates poverty by taking the initiative away from the poor. Charity allows us to go ahead with our own lives without worrying about the lives of the poor. Charity appeases. Charity appeases our consciences. Yes, charity appeases our consciences. The real issue is creating a level playing field for everybody, rich and poor countries, powerful and small enterprises, giving every human being a fair chance. As globalization continues to encroach on our socio-economic realities, the creation of this level playing field can become seriously endangered unless we initiate a global debate and generally agree on the features of a right architecture of globalization, rather than drift into something terribly wrong in the absence of a framework for action. This framework will no doubt have many features, but we can keep in mind the following. The rule of strongest takes it all must be replaced by a rule that ensures everybody a place and a piece of the action. Free trade must mean freedom for the weakest. The poor must be made active players rather than passive victims in the process of globalization. Globalization must promote harmony and partnership between the big and the small economies, rather than become a vehicle for unhindered takeovers by the rich economies. Globalization must ensure the easiest movement of people across borders. Each nation, especially poor ones, must make serious and continuous efforts to bring information technology to the poor people to enable them to take maximum advantage of globalization. Social entrepreneurs must be supported and encouraged to get involved in the process of globalization to make it friendly to the poor. Special privileges should be offered to them to let them scale up and multiply. Human society has tried in many ways to ensure quality of opportunity, but poverty remains. We expect the state to take care of the poor and have wound up, have wound up with massive bureaucracy to look after the poor. A large amount of taxpayers' money is set aside to finance the programs administered by these bureaucracies. But whatever governmental programs have achieved, they certainly have not created equality of opportunity. Poverty is very often handed down from one generation to the next. As we proceed through the early days of this new millennium, it would serve us well to strive toward the daring Millennium Development Goals set by the Millennium Summit of World Leaders at the United Nations in June 2000. The most daring of these goals is an entirely achievable one: halving, Halving, halving poverty by 2015. I am totally convinced from my experience of working with poor people that they can get themselves out of poverty if we give them the same or similar opportunities as we give to others. The poor themselves can create a poverty-free world. All we have to do is to free them from the chains that we have put around them. All we have to do is to free them from the chains that we have put around them. In order to reduce and ultimately eliminate poverty, we must go back to the drawing board. Concepts, institutions, and analytical frames. The conditions that created poverty cannot end poverty. If we can intelligently rework the frame conditions, then poverty will be gone, never to come back again. We must widen our concept of employment, ensure financial services, even to the poorest person, and recognize every single human being as a potential entrepreneur. Changes are products of intensive effort. The intensity of effort depends on the felt need for change and the resources that are mobilized to bring about the changes desired. In a greed-based economy, obviously changes will be greed-driven. These changes may not always be socially desirable. Socially desired changes may not be attractive from the greed perspective. That is why socially conscious organizations are needed, and the state and civil society should provide financial and other resources to them. Such organizations will continually devote their attention and research and development money to those areas of innovation, adaptation, and development in technology that will facilitate the achievement of beneficial social goals. They will also monitor the greed-driven developments in technology to ensure that such technologies do not lead societies in undesirable directions. I believe that one of the best ways forward is to encourage social entrepreneurs. The behavior patterns of a social objective-driven entrepreneur, i.e., a social entrepreneur, are as follows. He or she competes in the marketplace with all other competitors, but is inspired by a set of social objectives. This is the basic reason for being in the business. He may earn personal profit as well. This personal profit may range from zero to a significantly large amount, even larger than his personal gain-driven competitor. But in his case, personal profit is a secondary consideration rather than the prime consideration. On the other hand, a personal profit-driven entrepreneur may contribute in achieving some social objectives, but this will be a byproduct of his business or a secondary consideration. This will not make him a social entrepreneur. The higher the social impact per dollar invested, the higher the market rating of the social entrepreneur. Here, the market will consist of potential investors who are looking for opportunities to invest their money in social objective-driven enterprises. Social investment dollars will move from low social impact enterprises to higher impact enterprises, from general impact enterprises to specific and visible impact enterprises, from traditional social enterprises to highly innovative and efficient enterprises. Social objective driven investors will need a separate, i.e., social stock market, as well as separate rating agencies, financial institutions, mutual funds, venture capital, and so on. Almost everything that we have for profit driven enterprises will be needed for social objective driven enterprises, such as audit firms, due diligence and impact assessment methodologies, regulatory framework, standardization, and the like, only in a different context and with different methodologies. Because of the way in which the orthodoxy of economics has given shape to the existing world, all the investment money now is locked up in only one category of investment: investment for making personal profits. This has happened because people have not been offered any choice. There is only one type of competition to amass more personal wealth. The moment we open the door to making a social impact through investments, investors will start putting their investment dollars through this door as well. Initially, some investors will divert only a part, and maybe a small part, of their investment money to social enterprises. But if social entrepreneurs show concrete impact, then this flow will become larger and larger. Soon, a new type of investor will begin appearing on the scene. Those who will put almost all their investment money into social investments. Some of the existing profit-driven entrepreneurs may start revealing another dimension of their entrepreneurial ability. They may successfully operate in both the worlds, as conventional profit seekers in one, as dedicated social entrepreneurs in another. If the social enterprises can demonstrate high impact and creative enterprise designs, a day may come when personal profit driven enterprises will find themselves hard pressed to protect their market share. They will be forced to imitate the language and style of social enterprises to stay in business. If socially motivated people can dedicate their lives in politics to bring change in their communities, nations, and to the world, I see no reason why some socially motivated people will not dedicate their lives to building and operating social objective driven enterprises. So far, they have not done so because neither the opportunity nor the supportive framework exist. We must change this situation. A completely new world can be created by making space for the social entrepreneurs and the social investors in the business world. This is a very important agenda for all of us. Eliminating poverty will become so much easier if social entrepreneurs can take up the challenge of ending poverty and if social investors can use their investment money to support the work of social entrepreneurs. As recent developments show, there is one particular technology that is going to change the world in the immediate future, far more rapidly and fundamentally than any other technology in human history. This may be broadly described as information and communication technology. Already, its rate of expansion is phenomenal. Take the internet, for example. It is spreading at an exponential rate. At its present rate of expansion, internet use worldwide is doubling every year. Internet use worldwide is doubling every year. The most attractive aspect of this spread of information and communications technology is that it is not under anyone's control. Neither government nor big businesses nor anyone of any authority can restrict the flow of information through the internet, and it is becoming cheaper every day. Information and communication technology gives us a reason to hope that we are approaching a world free of power brokers and knowledge brokers. Brokers, brokers, brokers. Individuals will be in command. There will be no screening authority on center stage. This is particularly exciting for all disadvantaged groups, voiceless groups, and minority groups. Any power Any power built on exclusive access to information will disintegrate. Every common citizen will have almost as much access to information as the head of a government. Leadership will have to be based on vision and integrity, rather than on the manipulation of information. What direction would I like to see this information and communication technology take? I would like to see that all information be available to all people, including the poorest, the most ignorant, and the most powerless, at all times, almost cost-free, irrespective of, irrespective of, irrespective of distance. Communication between any two persons anywhere in the world should be as easy as talking to your best friend while sitting together on a park bench. All academic and social institutions should be turned into a nodal points, NODAL, nodal points for the dissemination of information. Access to information is empowering. Grameen phone brings internet-enabled mobile phones to the Grameen borrowers and makes them telephone ladies of the villages. By March 2003, there were more than 25,000 telephone ladies selling telephone services in half the villages of Bangladesh. Many of these phones are solar powered because electricity does not exist in those villages. Soon, these women can become internet ladies if we can design the appropriate services for them. The technology is already in their hands. Families in remote villages of Bangladesh are able to communicate with relatives in distant parts of the world, conduct business, and lead more informed lives, while extending telecommunication services to the poor. Grameen Phone has also done very well as a business. It has expanded its services to become the largest mobile phone company in South Asia in its 5 years of operation. At each step, future information and communication technology should be creating a global environment to unleash the creativity, ingenuity, and productivity in every human being. Any person anywhere should be able to enroll in any academic institution on the basis of his or her interest and ability, irrespective of his or her social upbringing, geographic location, or financial capacity. The entire concept of an academic institution would also be vastly different from what it is today. In such an environment, it would not be surprising to learn that the most creative student in a very prestigious university comes from a poor family in a remote village in China, or Ethiopia or Bangladesh, and that she or he has never yet visited a town. Another access I would like to see is access to the market. I would like to see all barriers and protections around world markets disappear. Protectionism is built up in each nation in the name of the poor, but its real beneficiaries are the rich and clever people who know how to manipulate the system. By contrast, the poor have a better chance in a bigger open market than in a smaller protected market. Everyone would benefit from the free flow of commodities, finances, and people. It does not make sense to build high walls around the borders of our countries. Passports and visas are a 20th century phenomenon. They did not real, really exist before that. They did not really exist before that. Let us leave them behind with the century that invented them. Let us take pride in our human identity above all other identities. Let us wave our national flags, celebrate our regional, national, racial, local, religious, political, and cultural identities, but not by offending others, not by claiming supremacy. Instead, we should glorify in the unity of humankind, strengthened and enhanced through the friendly competition of cultures, religions, and other diversities. Needless to say, technology as well as economic necessity is bringing us closer to this borderless, distanceless world. Let us welcome it with applause. Europe is now leading the way in creating a free and open market among nations. Other regional associations and groupings of countries can follow Europe's initiative. Later, we can move from regional to interregional, and finally, to the free global movement of people, finance, commodities, and services from any one location in the world to any other. With the concept of national government waiting to be drastically redefined in the context of new economic and technological realities, it would be a natural step to go beyond political borders, to seek friends and partners without state authority intervening in such matters. My close friend Sam Daly Harris, the executive director of Results, RESULTS, was getting tired of lobbying the US Congress for tiny sums of money. He could see that despite his great work in alleviating poverty, the problem was simply too vague. Something dramatic was needed. Sam had witnessed the amazing success of Jim Grant, the executive director of the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, and his Children's Summit of 1990, when the world's leaders came to New York City and signed on to ambitious goals. So Sam started toying with the idea of a gala event. Toying, T-O-Y-I-N-G, gala, G-A-L-A. So Sam started toying with the idea of a gala event, a summit for microcredit. He sought a reasonable but ambitious target for the summit. With John Hatch of the Foundation for International Community Assistance, FINCA, he articulated his new vision to reach the 200 million poorest families, the entire population of poor people in the world, through microcredit within 10 years. I did not think that Sam's goal was feasible, FEASIBLE. I did not think that Sam's goal was feasible. To be taken seriously, we needed a more reasonable goal. I suggested we aim to reach the 100 million poorest families in the coming 10 years. At that time, 1996 to 2005. Agreeing with my revised figure as our official goal, Sam proposed that we organize a World Summit. Drafting our declaration proved to be very contentious. Everyone wanted to rewrite the declaration, and I was disappointed to see how the summit preparations opened up conflicts among various organizations, all of which were trying to achieve the same thing: poverty alleviation. Sam grew increasingly frustrated. I tried to cheer him up by saying that We had to confront all our academic, institutional, and philosophical differences head on. It was easy for me to say this from the safety of Dhaka, but Sam was the focal point for everyone's anger. Summit preparations were hectic, but the outpouring of support thrilled us. Held February 2, 1997, the Microcredit Summit certainly succeeded in mobilizing worldwide action. About 3,000 people from 137 countries gathered in Washington, D.C. The three co-chairs of the summit, First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton, Queen Sofia of Spain, the Totomu Hata, the former Prime Minister of Japan, made passionate and forceful speeches. Hillary Clinton hailed the summit as one of the most important gatherings that we could have anywhere in our world. She went on to explain, it, microcredit, is not just about giving individuals economic opportunity. It is about community. It is about responsibility. It is about seeing how we are all interconnected and interdependent in today's world. It is recognizing that in our country the fate of welfare recipients in Denver or Washington is inextricably bound up with all of ours. It is understanding how lifting people out of poverty in India or Bangladesh rebounds to the benefit of the entire community and creates fertile ground for democracy to live and grow because people have hope in the future. Sheikh Hasina, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, chaired the summit's operating plenary session, PLENARY, plenary session. On the podium, she was joined by Alpha Omar Konar, the President of Mali, Waike Museveni, the President of Uganda, PM Mukambi, the Prime Minister of Mozambique, Alberto Fujimori, the President of Peru, Queen Sofia of Spain, Sutoma Heta, Siti Hesmet, the First Lady of Malaysia, and myself. It was an electrifying start to an historic event. The summit organized the participants into separate specialized councils: the Council of Practitioners, the Council of Donor Agencies, the Council of Corporations, the Council of Religious Institutions, the Council of UN Agencies, the Council of International Financial Institutions, the Council of Advocates, the Council of NGOs, and the Council of Parliamentarians. It was indeed a macro event for microcredits. During those 3 days, the whole world came together to discuss solutions to poverty. And the energy generated by listening to other leaders and other advocates, and by meeting so many colleagues, friends, and supporters, brought tears to our eyes. It was obvious to all of us that if we could maintain this level of interest during the subsequent 9 years, we could not only meet but overshoot the stated goal of the summit. Robert Rubin, the Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, Jim Wolfenson, the President of the World Bank, Gus Speth, the Administrator of the United Nations Development Program (UNDP), Carol Bellamy, the Executive Director of UNICEF, Dr. Nafis Sadiq, the Executive Director of the United Nations Fund for Population Activities (UNFPA), Federico Mayor, the Secretary General of UNESCO, Huguette Lebelly, the President of the International Development Agency, Brian Atwood, the Administrator of USAID, and Fauzi Al-Sultan, the president of IFAD, all proved to be inspiring speakers at the plenary sessions. Each one declared his or her uncompromising commitment to the alleviation and eradication of poverty through microcredit. The late Bella Abzak, co-chair of the Council of Advocates, brought the delegates to their feet when she said, "Never, never, never underestimate the historic importance of what we do here today. And no matter how steep the path, how discouraging the pace, I ask you to never give in and never give up." The delegates made their response very clear by thumping their applause. When my turn came to speak at the operating plenary session of the summit, I found myself thinking of Jovra and my very first borrowers, those who were raised to think that they were nobodies, worth nothing, and who had become sudden heroes at this summit. It was those people, with their lives of simple dignity, who had radically changed me from a bird's-eye view economist teaching elegant theories in a classroom to a worm's-eye view practitioner helping to introduce real and lasting change into people's lives.